Confidence isn't what disappears under pressure, it's self-trust. And today's guest, executive coach Lucia, has spent 35 years across 65 countries teaching people how to reconnect with their voice, their visibility, and their impact, no matter how high the stakes. Lucia is a leadership and transformation coach, helping people navigate change with success and fulfillment. Disclaimer: any of the guidance offered by the podcast host, myself, or the podcast guests is our own guidance. We are not liable for any of the actions the podcast listener decides to do. So, Lucia.Montanaro is a leadership strategist and executive coach with more than 35 years of experience across 65 countries. She helps people reconnect with their voice and self-trust under pressure so that they can lead with greater clarity, courage, and impact. Welcome to the show, Lucia. Glad to have you on.
Thank you very much, Johnny. I'm very happy to be here, very happy to connect on these topics.
Amazing. Yeah, absolutely. Good friend of mine, and we have some great conversations. So excited to have Lucia on the show today and add a lot of value, as I know she's doing with the world right now. So I'd love to know, what is a leadership strategist? And maybe a little bit about what got you into that road, down that journey of being a leadership strategist as well.
Sure. So as a leadership strategist, it's like a combination of different roles. It's depending on what people need. So I work on the individual level, I work with the corporate sector or NGO, and I work with institutions like United Nations, NATO, and the European Union. And as a leadership strategist, it's kind of somehow blurring the lines to whatever is needed. So that can go effectively from coaching to mentoring to training, or it can actually be embedded into an organization and really make those kind of help them shift those long-term behaviors and have those long-term solutions. So it's looking at really, what is it that they want? What is that growth strategy they want? What are those obstacles that they're having? And really accompany them with that. And so whether that's on an individual, a team, an organization, or the interaction between teams. So it's really, how to strengthen both their leadership, as well as supporting the whole transformation. So yeah, that's what it means.
I love it. Okay. So yeah, it sounds like a huge bit of, maybe you call it work, maybe you call it passion. Huge amount of things to deliver for people and really support them through that growth. And that's the word growth you picked out. You said there, helping them with that growth and supporting them with their direction in life. Yeah. So what got you down? What down got you down that road?
Oof, many different things. I mean, one, I come from a background of having worked many years, many decades in conflict prevention, in peace building, in international affairs, in mediation of international conflicts. And so in a whole load of very high level leadership positions, and seeing and kind of noticing, observing both my mistakes and my successes as a leader, but also observing others and seeing the problems in it. And feeling that there's a real disconnect between what really works in leadership and what the research shows that works and what is being practiced. For me, there's a real disconnect, a real cognitive dissonance between the two. And so I really wanted to have more impact on that and help leaders to be able to have that grounded clarity and have that leadership that can have that impact and that positive ripple effect, because obviously from the leader lots of different things trickle down. So that's from the professional field. From the personal field, it came from having, like everyone, having encountered certain challenges, but I had a certain moment in my life where I was basically going towards a train wreck, a crash, and where I realized that I was the only one that could change that. And so then it came back to kind of my broad understanding of leadership, which is first and foremost leadership within, and that only if I change things and if I became, really a leader rather than a passive victim of everything else that was going on and complaining about people, complaining about situations, things won't shift. And so it was also, taking that own responsibility and those shifts in my own life that brought me also to want to also support people individually in having more, in holding the reins and in the direction of that they want to create.
So you touched on like leadership within was a big part, and yeah, I can see that could be quite that could possibly be an oversight. I guess it's like when you hear leadership, you think about like other people, but yeah, leading yourself every day as well is really important.
I mean, for me, it absolutely starts by that. I mean, any great leader cannot be a great leader if they're not a good leader themselves. I mean, I have been in situations where I've seen high-level leaders having a massive anger management issue, and then getting angry with their staff, who get angry, down the line with other staff or other partners. And that majorly impacts it. I mean, when a leader doesn't know how to regulate his own emotions or feels under pressure, because under pressure, they get your biases, your cognitive biases get reduced. You also, I mean, I work in very international environments, and actually your cultural biases get more constrained. And so basically under pressure, leaders, it's not that they lose their capability of being a good leader, is they lose the access to it. Yeah. And of course, there's a whole kind of neuroscience, psychology, biology, things around it of reasoning, but there's also ways to calm it so that, they can have that stillness, so that they can, rather than be stuck in the kind of micromanaging everyone, judging everyone, perfectionism on the self, or becoming too silent, or some members of the team becoming too silent, or over accommodating. I mean, there's many different patterns of how people react under pressure. And so, I think therefore in those moments there becomes a confusion between competence and confidence. It's not a question of lack of competence. It's not a question of lack of capability, but they may lose confidence in those moments because they're not accessing kind of their own intuition, their own inner wisdom, their own understandings of a context and being able to read it. And so, then you become just in the do under ultra pressure, rather than kind of stepping back into, let me look at the big picture here to make a more strategic choice of how to move forward. It's like, the story about the horse in the forest.
Possibly, yeah.
So
Familiarize me.
And you have a horse in the middle of a forest, and there's massive amount of fog, and basically the horse can't remember, its path and which tree it should recognize and where is the path out, because there's so much fog. And so then you feel overwhelmed when there's so many different options and so many different things. And so, I think that relates to confidence, in the sense that confidence for me is not something that you have to wait to get. It's the horse, by taking, by staying stuck in saying there's so many trees and so many and so much fog, it doesn't build its confidence. And it's not something that you can say, I must become more confident. It doesn't work like that. I mean, it's by taking a little step forward and another step forward, and slowly they will see the path ahead. And so it's through that action, through that momentum, but also connecting, in the case of going back to the leader rather than the horse, is connecting to a wider vision. It's so easy to be in that pressure and be preoccupied with the obstacle of the day, and that kind of, you forget the wider landscape, the wider purpose or the reason why. And so for me, It's, yes, taking those actions of steps forward, but it's also trying to take them in the direction of what you want. And by taking those small steps, you'll build your own self-trust. It will provide you with that evidence for your self-trust, and then that can slowly start stacking up. But yeah, we're human. I mean, it happens to all of us to sometimes feel overwhelmed, to sometimes have a moment of hesitation, of fear, of a million different things. But whatever the situation that one is fearful or lacking confidence in, I like to kind of rethink of what I can have access to. Like earlier on, I was saying, under pressure, you lose access. And that's a problem. It's not your lack of confidence. It's not your lack of capability. And so if you start by, if you connect to the gifts that you have in your life and potentially someone that can help you, potentially someone, or you can ask a favor to someone, or someone has done it, or someone can introduce you to someone. And then you take those little steps. You take those little steps forward. And so yeah, as far as pressure, that is what I would share.
So you're kind of saying, or kind of what I'm hearing is to like build this self-trust and this confidence. There's this moving forward, taking the steps to sort of like build it, not like the horse in the forest analogy of being like stuck, like looking everywhere. But there's also you need the allowance to kind of see the bigger vision and where you're going. And then when you're taking the steps, just pause for a moment and kind of just check where you're going. So it's kind of doing both of those things, not thinking too much and overthinking, but taking time to understand where you're going, what is the direction, and then ultimately taking the steps.
I mean, it's kind of connecting to why it's important, why it matters. When you're stuck when you're worried about, when you're kind of worried about what will other people think of me, and what if I do it right? It's like, it's like someone who has to give a presentation and they get all stressed, and you think, well, actually, yeah, sure, maybe my hair keeps falling on my head, maybe whatever, maybe I might trip on my words. But at the end of the day, just like this conversation, it's not about you and me, it's about serving other people. And that can be the same thing for anyone in a work situation or in a conversation. It's about the other person. When you think about the other person, and you're connecting from heart to heart and to why it matters, then the details of, okay, what will people think if I touch my hair? It doesn't matter. Or if Johnny's had the latest haircut.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And so it's getting out of yourself. It's getting connected to why it matters, and then taking the step forward. And as you take the step forward, you'll build the evidence that builds the self-trust, that builds the confidence. As it comes from having that courage to take those steps forward.
I like this. Yeah. And it's kind of, when I think of times it's worked in my life and I have to remind myself this stuff, don't worry, I'm human, all these things, but it's like, yeah, I find clarity comes often from movement and exploring things and building steps of self-trust, sometimes courageous steps. But yeah, then also what you're saying is like connecting to your reason why, been really understanding where you're going.
Yeah.
So you're not just going around in a circle and doing a load of things that aren't serving you.
Yeah, and the reason why I'm saying it is I'm saying I believe there's a difference between manufactured confidence and grounded confidence.
Yeah, I'd love to hear the difference.
I mean, so grounded confidence, manufactured is kind of saying, okay, I need to be confident, and I must do something. And yes, there is your physiology that helps in that. But the grounded confidence is kind of rooted in what I was saying, is rooted in your why, rooted in what matters and in your values, but connecting also, to your strengths, to your gifts. So your gifts of your wisdom, your lessons, your kindness, your your skills, your resources of the people that you have. So your strengths, your gifts, your courage, and why it matters. And so then it's really grounded. It's like, it's grounded like the roots of a tree, and it's solid. And so when you're taking that action, well, it's like you've got a whole, army of angels or whatever with you, and you're not alone with it. You're equipped with all these different things that help boost your courage to take those steps forward.
So quite like it's purposeful when it's sort of like you've got like
Exactly.
a meaning behind it. Okay, yeah. Rather than trying to run from your fears, it's more like coming from the heart. I kind of almost take it from.
Exactly. And obviously your fears and self-doubt can come, and we're all human. It's who even the most successful people sometimes have fears or doubts, whatever, but it's about, okay, that fear or that self-doubt can come as a lesson, but not allowing it to lead you. It can be, let's say, if you're in a room, it can be one of the people in the room, but it can't be the only voice. Your own voice matters, and it's about, your voice of towards where you're becoming or what you're striving towards matters, and kind of allowing that to take more room, and as you progressively take those actions and embody it, and have more confidence in your voice. And so you're not, in the beginning, that voice may be trembling, maybe, speaking softly, and maybe has its, shoulders down, but progressively allowing that voice to take space.
I love that. I'm just wondering for the person who's like, you talked about this kind of like grounded confidence, and it linking to like our values and, what's really important to us and meaningful. For like maybe the individual out there who's really like no idea what that is, maybe they've been in like survival mode, maybe it's kind of been kind of just running from their fears. How can someone begin to kind of like find that about themselves and what's really important to them?
I think one, it comes back to the question of pressure. More you're in a whirlwind of stress, of worry, of fear, of, anxiety or depression, whatever, more it's difficult to have the clarity of what really matters. So, first it is finding that stillness, like if you imagine when you're swimming in the sea, and if the sea is very turbulent, there's a lot of sand, and so if you put on your mask, you can't see the fishes. So first you need to calm down the ocean inside of you, which may be by different, whatever works for you. That may be, by listening to a calming music, by going for a walk, by, whatever it works for your meditation. But just taking a couple of minutes of deep breaths. And I would always start by that first, by the kind of biological, physiological thing. And then it's coming with curiosity. It's, what mattered to you 20 years ago may not be, or through your conditioning as a child, may not be what is the most important thing for you now. And so leaning into that curiosity, because you may be in a transition of your life, you may be entering a different chapter, and having, just pen to paper, starting to ask, what does really matter to me now, and having, and what is, something that I can bring with me from the past that has given me lessons and that I want to keep, or what is it I don't want to keep and kind of let go of, and what is a step forward that I can do for that. I mean, let's say, okay, let me give you concrete examples. Let's say, okay, if the person maybe has their children who have moved out and is now single and is living alone, maybe they want more connection, more meaningful connection, and therefore, what is it that they can do, to try and find that people that are like-minded, that have, similar values, similar interests in their life, and try and connect. it's not in your sitting room watching Netflix that you're going to find more meaningful connections. But it's so it's, it's taking that moment, even with just a pen and paper, getting clear on what you want, and then taking a step forward. And as you take a step forward, that will bring a more sense of responsibility, a sense of being that protagonist of your life, a sense of you can control the direction of your life. It gives you, a sense of pride, as integrity. And then it feels good, and so then you do something again that feels good.
I love that. So it starts, but I like what you said about getting into a place, if possible, of more like stillness, because in a high, like anxious state, or kind of like really down, depressed maybe, or very, very down, where your energy's not there, this is going to be hard to kind of come up with that level of clarity. So doing stuff for yourself, you were saying, to get into like stillness or a more peaceful state. But then the curiosity and the good quality questions was another part that really came up as well that I liked. Yeah.
And realizing that other people don't get to choose what you're gonna do in the next steps of your life. You can ask feedback to people that matter to you, but it's just feedback, it's information. It's not permission or validation. It's, so many people have spent so much of their life conditioned by other people's approaches, other people's values, etc., and what is right and what is not right. And that self-trust also comes from, okay, let me make those choices, which also means that if you, let me not say a swear word, and if you mess up, it's your fault. You can't blame anyone else. So you're going to have to take accountability of your decisions and your choices. That comes with that freedom, that responsibility. But it's really, it doesn't mean you can't talk about things and get feedback, but the feedback that really matters is really the one inside you, is that, that inner wisdom or inner intuition that one can connect to.
That inner compass.
That inner compass, exactly, precisely. I love that.
You mentioned like, and there's in certain cultures there's a lot of like pressure, a lot of stresses and things like that. From kind of like being a leadership strategist and working with a variety of people, I know you mentioned, we've obviously talked about like having that for those who are a bit more grounded confidence, but also maybe grounded emotion, they've got this bigger vision of like where they're going, they've really got like some kind of meaning. Is there anything else you sort of like noticed in those who have got more grounded emotions or grounded confidence? Some of any like particular habits or things they do?
I guess one of the things is the importance of the relationships that they have around them. I think, the quality of the relationships and that are around them will support that, and where, those people are also accountable, and where those people are also striving to make a positive impact and taking responsibility for their emotional regulation, etc. So that can kind of take feedback or evaluate of a mistake that they've done, but simply as a way to improve, not as, okay, let me feel shame. I mean, there's some cultures where anger and shame are more prevalent than in others. And so, that question that you asked me also kind of depends on the culture, because it's that grounded, that confidence manifests in a very different way. And so in some cultures that can be more seen as more direct, as more extrovert, as more, but yeah, I would say relationship is important, and being able to spend time with themselves, to reconnect regularly to what really matters, to what direction they're going, and having that reconnection, and not just being in the doing, but being in the being as well.
Sure, I've got that. Yeah, being and the being, not just going through the motions. Yeah, No, or not emotions, not just going through like the hamster wheel without stepping back and being a human being, as you say.
Yeah. But at the same time, people have different transitions in their life. You know, they can transition work-wise, or they can transition from, you know, becoming an empty nester like I am. My sons are big now, and that's a different chapter in my life, or, you know, or people changing location, etc. And that can be a moment when they can lose confidence as well.
Mm.
And because they don't have their same references, like everything feels a bit more like quicksand.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that
Yeah.
resonate with you?
No, absolutely. Yeah. Like, unfamiliar things coming into life can, knocking on confidence a little bit there, or a lot maybe, depending what the situation is, right?
Exactly. And as you change situation,
Mm.
you know, whether you change jobs, or you change geography, or you change your network of friends, you also lose a part of your identity, and you had confidence in the person who you were at that chapter in your life.
Yeah.
Okay. And so it's not that you have lost confidence, is that you need to kind of redefine it. You need to rebuild. I mean, basically what I'm saying is that confidence is organic. You know, it's something, it's not you have it or you don't have it. It's something that you cultivate. It's a living thing, you know, just like a garden and its different seasons. It's something that needs to be nourished and cultivated, and have that also patience and kindness as it evolves in different stages of your life.
So it's, not neglecting it. It's like a garden. I like the analogy again. It's
I love
really
it.
like, yeah, it's awesome. So like tending to your planting your confidence seeds, looking after yourself, and like a garden can change. You could walk into a different garden, like you could walk into a new chapter of your lives, but you've got to like nurture it. You've got to understand it, define it. I love what you're saying there, with particularly around the point around identity, that you could lose a bit of you, but again, you could always nurture wherever you are your confidence.
Yeah. Do you know the book, a French children's book called The Little Prince of Saint-Exupéry? Does
I've
it ring a
heard of
bell?
it. Heard of it.
Yeah. Well, anyway, in that story, he's like totally in love with this flower, and it's a whole story about taking care of that flower, and so it's also that, and so, you know, it comes down also to your inner dialogue. You know, when you're nurturing your garden, you're also, it depends of how you're speaking to yourself, and that little voice in your head, and how you can be conscious of the words and the thoughts that you're having, and how they can actually help grow your self-esteem and confidence, or they can erode it. But it depends, you know, if you think about it as a beautiful rose that you need to take care of, or a little, or your younger self, then you'll kind of be gentler with it,
Yeah.
or with yourself,
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Always
and
remember
let it
that.
blossom and flourish and thrive.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, amazing. Lucia, I love what all you've shared today. I think that's a really great way to sort of describe how we can nourish ourselves and look after ourselves, looking at it like a flower, a young version of ourselves, to really attend to that confidence. I'd love to know, where's the best place to find you and anything you've got coming up? And is there maybe a final point after that you'd like to leave us with as well?
So where you can find me is at my website is lucia.montanaro.com. So lucia.montanaro. It's the same thing for my LinkedIn, for my Facebook. It's my name, basically, or also put it down when this podcast comes out, we can put it underneath. And the other thing that I wanted to share is an event coming up. So this event is exclusively for women. So I'm sorry for the men in the audience, and sorry to you, Johnny, too. It's exclusively for women. And it's about leadership within, and reclaim yourself and lead your next chapter. And so it's about women who are ready to really rediscover what matters to them, to trust themselves, to kind of be more aware of the invisible pressures and lead what comes next from that more kind of intentional, conscientious place, instead of constantly over accommodating. And so there's 2 free live events on the 29th of August and 2nd of September. And so we'll put in the link so you can register, and I would love to welcome you there. And regarding a last message, I would say don't wait to become fearless before you trust yourself. Like, choose who you are becoming. We were talking about what matters and the direction you go. So choose who you're becoming and take one small courageous action and notice that evidence and then repeat. Like, confidence becomes less something that you chase and more something that progressively you embody.
I love that. No, amazing. Yeah, don't chase it. Something you can embody on the way. Yeah. And Lucia, I appreciate the website for the resources, getting in contact with you, and then your amazing event coming up at the end of August, start of September. So yeah, check out that event. It's going to be linked in the show notes below this, and then also Lucia's website and all our other links as well. But yeah, that's coming up shortly, so grab yourself a ticket. So Lucia, a massive thank you for coming on today.
And thank you, Johnny, for this conversation.
Absolutely. So that concludes our episode for today. And remember to share your voice by leading with your heart and not with fear.